I would say the big crack came during the COVID pandemic. At that time, I was probably 22 years a witness around that time, and we were always taught don't push medical stuff. I finally decided to click on a video or a link. My heart was pounding, I was sweating, I was breathing heavy, and I realized something's wrong. Like even before I saw any information, it's like every step of the way through this journey, I'm realizing something's wrong. It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking how they dealt with me. And they said, hey, we've decided to disfellowship you for apostasy. And that was it.
How does it feel to get labeled that? This is Seas Awakening. I'm the host of my channel. This is your home for XJW tales from folks who've woken up from high control situations like Joe's witnesses and from others. I have a great interview scheduled for you today, so I'm going to tell you all about it in just a second. First, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Remember, I'm trying to hit 2,500 subs, so please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you will not miss any of these awesome interviews. If you do nothing else, leave a comment if you feel so inclined. But the best way to pay for it is just by hitting that thumbs up. Smash that like if you find anything that you really like about this content. So the person I'm bringing in today, his name is Amiri McCain. You may have seen him online. He runs the kind of growing YouTube channel called JW Informed Consent. He was an elder for several years. Then he became despondent. He kind of learned some information during COVID that woke him up. And he got his fellowship for apostasy, or removed for apostasy rather, because removed is the a term they call it now. Let's meet Amiri McCain now and learn more about his story. Here's Amiri.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. It was nice to finally catch up
Yeah,
with
we've been
you.
trying to get together, and I know our schedules. I went to California, now I'm back, and we've been having some issues, but glad we were able to make this happen.
Right. Likewise. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So let's just get into it. Where are you from, and how did you come to become a Jehovah's Witness?
So I'm from Arizona, born and raised, and I grew up in and around Phoenix. Glendale, started out in Glendale, which is just right adjacent to Phoenix. And my grandma was a witness. So my grandma was a witness, and as a little kid, she would talk to me and tell me about how nice paradise would be, and she was pretty, I just always remember her. She had a lot of health issues, so she wasn't super mobile, but so I just remember being in her home and her talking about petting the lions and the elephants and snakes and all that stuff. And as a kid, it sounds good,
It sounds so cool when you're a kid, like lions is a pet and all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sounds cool now. I'd love to do it now, but
Yep.
I'm there.
So you end up, your parents, were they Jehovah's Witnesses as well, or just your grandmother?
Just my just my grandma. So I have and I didn't always think about this, but I have an aunt, she's passed, but she was baptized, I believe, at Yankee Stadium, and she was a
Hmm.
pioneer for a while. And I think when the smoking ban came along, well, maybe in the 70s, I'm not sure, she left. And then I have an uncle who's still alive, and he's baptized, but he's been inactive. I mean, probably since he was a kid, and he's
Hmm.
probably close to 70. Yeah.
So how'd you end up gravitating towards the organization?
Yeah, so my grandma, she would talk to me, and she'd send in the troops, right? She had her best friend study with me as a little guy. And then I got a little bit older, and I just remember there'd always be like two brothers that would show up, sometimes a married couple, but usually a couple brothers would show up. And then they were always trying to get me to study. I would study off and on. And then I was like, no, I can't do this. Like Jehovah, he wants too much. And I was just running around as a kid. I wanted to hang out with friends,
Yeah.
wanted to, girls, parties, things like that. And then I would say around the time, like I have an older daughter, and my girlfriend at the time, she got pregnant, and I just started thinking, and I had some traumatic experiences, and I was in trouble a lot, and I thought I've got to do something because when you have a baby, I don't know if you have children,
You have
but
a son.
Okay, yeah, that kind of even when you're young, because I was young, you're thinking, okay, maybe I need to grow up, maybe I need to
Hmm.
do a little something different. So I started studying briefly, and I pushed my girlfriend at the time, who was pregnant with my our daughter, to get married. I mean, it was literally like this shotgun wedding. I think we got married like on a Friday, and I went to work that night, and it was like it was like probably one of the worst weddings anybody's ever had. But we did it. It didn't last long. I didn't keep studying long, and then I went another few years and started studying again. And it was a similar thing. I was drifting away from my daughter, and I just started thinking, I need to serve Jehovah. I'm plagued in my mind because I'm not serving Jehovah. And my grandma, what she talked to me about, that's what I knew.
You
You
just
know,
heard her in the back of your head, like saying, "You gotta come back to the truth."
got to come back to the truth. Yeah, yeah, that was
Hmm.
it. And you kind of will can amp up things in your own mind, right? Like, oh, this is why, or
Yep.
you see, and then you see like an awake at a phone booth, which they don't even have phone booths anymore, right? But
Right.
I just remember being in front of like a Circle K, like a convenience store, and seeing an awake on the telephone, on the payphone, not phone booth, payphone, and thinking, oh, that's a sign. That's a sign from God, right? And
Hmm.
and that just kind of snowballed, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to get away from this party scene, and I'm going to change, and I'm going to try and do the right thing. And I think I visited one church and immediately was like, no, no, this isn't it. Jehovah's Witnesses have the truth.
Hmm. It makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense when you're actually in it. Then you get out, you're like, yeah, not so much.
Not so much, not so
Hmm.
much. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, at what point did you get finally make the leap and get baptized then?
So I got baptized in 98, and I had studied for a short time. And then even in 98, some stuff happened. Like I went to the memorial, whatever day that was in 1998. And when I came home that day, hours later, my mom died. She had an asthma attack, and she died like basically in my arms.
Hmm.
And it was hard for me to talk about for years. It's just probably more recently I've been able to talk about it. That was traumatic. I was already studying. I blamed God for a minute, but then after that, I mean, I was baptized within 5 months after she passed. So that would have been in 98.
My condolences to you on losing your mother. It's sort of ironic because I think that was the last year I attended the memorial was in 1998. So that year stands out to me because me and my girlfriend went to the memorial,
Mm.
and yeah, that was the last memorial I ever attended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you basically get baptized and you get fully commit to being Jehovah's Witness. You become an elder. What was that
Mhm.
like for you? Was it just like you're basically a Jehovah's Witness now, going to meetings, going on field service?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I struggled. Like before I got baptized, I remember just struggling to go to meetings. Like I just mentally, oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Then you get baptized, and I was going to school at the time, and you're that the JW regimen is intense, right? At the time, there was like Tuesday book study. That was an hour book study, like at 7 p.m. And then Thursday we would have a midweek meeting, which that's like multiple meetings in one. It's about 2 hours, but it's probably two to two
Is
to
that the
four
Ukrainian ministry school and whatever it was?
ministry school. Yeah, all of that. And
Yeah,
then
ours
we
was flip. Ours was on Tuesdays and then book study was on Thursdays, I think. But yeah, it was the same regimen.
same regimen. Yeah. So I'm doing that, and I'm trying to study, I'm studying, and then you feel guilty if you're not studying the lessons and underlining and doing everything they tell you. You
Yeah, you're weak.
think you're weak, you're spiritually weak, and Jehovah, he might destroy you because you didn't study. It's crazy, but that's kind of how you think.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was doing that for a while, and I just slowly I'm thinking, okay, this is the right thing to do, and I'm bringing my daughter along, and the congregation, they were nice, the friends, they enjoyed us, we enjoyed them, and I would say within about 3 years, I became a ministerial servant,
Hmm.
early 2000s. Mhm.
Okay. And just keep on becoming an elder, I guess.
Yeah, so I was a ministerial servant for around 8 years,
Oh,
I
wow.
think, and then got appointed an elder. They appointed me 2 years before I accepted, but I just had stuff going on, and
Hmm.
I just, they have the letter and they talk to you, and I was like, I can't
I
do
don't
it.
want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I had stuff going on, and then so 2 years later, around 2009, is when I accepted it, and I served as an elder until from 2009 to January 2025 this year.
Wow. So what was that like being an elder? Because I've always wondered, because my dad was only a ministerial servant. He didn't want to mess with the eldership. So yeah, what was that
Yeah.
experience like for you?
Um, I thought, it was at first it was daunting. It was immediately it's a lot more work, right? Like, oh, you have to give more public talks. So where you're standing in front of a congregation, at the time it was 45 minutes. And I
Hmm.
had heard, oh, it was an hour, so be happy it's 45 minutes, So I start developing outlines and making talks and then going out to different places, and then they want you to help with, like, at the time it was RBC, so help with construction, right? Shepherding calls where you're now as an elder, you have to grab a ministerial servant or an elder. If it's something serious, you're supposed to grab an elder and go visit this person and try and help them get back going, especially
Yeah.
if they're spiritually weak. Assignments at the conventions, the assemblies, the circuit assemblies, regional conventions, just a lot of work.
So what happened in the past year that made you step back, or what kind of how did you when did you have any questions about whether that's Jehovah's organization? You initially had some challenges attending the meetings, but what happened? Like what happened to your faith?
I would say what happened when I look back now, I think there were cracks over the years,
Yeah.
maybe small fractures. And one of those would be just going to people's door and experiencing people, whether they were, a lot of times they were church going Christians, right? And sometimes they weren't. But when I experienced people just being nice, those were small fractures. And then I had little doubts, things I couldn't prove in the Bible, where I was just like, oh, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm weak, I'm coming in off the street, and there's more spiritual people in Bethel. And so I'll just, like Jehovah's Witnesses say, wait on Jehovah, right? You just wait on Jehovah. And then I would say the big crack came during the COVID pandemic, where the governing body, we're all just hiding out, hunkering down in our homes, and the governing body started pushing like an experimental medical treatment. It was under experimental use authorization, and I
The
thought, what?
jab that I never got.
Yeah, yeah, same here, yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking that just kind of that just blew my mind that was happening, because I was all, at that time I was probably 22 years a witness around that time. And we were always taught, don't push medical stuff. We were always look pretty cautious about that. And I had even been talked to by another elder, and even other occasions where people would talk to me, yeah, Myra, it sounds a little extreme, if I'm talking about something natural. And
Hmm.
now here the governing body comes and they start pushing this, and it just didn't sit well with me, and it didn't make sense. And then they started associating getting that procedure with obedience to God. And I think that's when that's when it just the fracture just blew wide open. And
Right.
I felt horrible. I mean, I was coming in here to my office. There were times, Amani, I got down on my knees and was praying in here, begging Jehovah God for forgiveness, because I had this totally different ideas than the governing body. So I'm praying for forgiveness because I'm disagreeing with the governing body. That's how real it was. And I think from there I got kind of, I guess I was upset, but I saw manipulation. And to me, it was like seeing the manipulation in a magic trick, and I
Hmm.
couldn't unsee it. So then I started, then everything I was watching from them, I was guarded. I was like really looking into it. Or when I'm studying my watchtower, I'm thinking, this is manipulative. This is kind of how they were talking about this pandemic thing, and they're doing the same thing in this other area. I had never seen that before. It's almost like I had a new pair of glasses or something, you know?
Kind of like you broke your trust and you were always really suspicious of everything they came out with, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. Once they broke the trust, it was like, it's hard. It's easy to destroy that. It's hard to build. It's like if you catch your wife with someone, I mean, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be a tough
Hmm.
one. It might blow up the marriage. And so with this, it just kind of, I was suspicious. And at some point, I decided I'm going to look into this religion. If I'm going to do this, if this is like my salvation, like this is the ark that's basically going to carry me into this new world, this paradise that Jehovah's Witnesses talk of, and this is how I'm going to live for all eternity. I'm going to take us some time and look into this, you know.
So what you look, how did the research go?
Well, here I am, right, with with you.
No, I know what.
So, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, are there witnesses that can do the research and stay in? There might,
Probably not any real research. I don't think so. No.
yeah, probably not a few. It is
Mm-mm.
surprising that through my channel, I have had at least one or two reach out to me, and they're elders, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know all this is wrong and this and that," and I'm like, "Hey, if whatever makes you thrive."
So what are you doing? What are you doing then?
Yeah, yeah. Why are you reaching out? That's a disconnect to me, but that
Hmm.
is out there. So for me, I started watching a bunch of YouTube content, and I was watching, on my phone, I was like Google Chrome, private tab, go to YouTube, watch Seeds of Awakening, among others. I found you at some point, and but I couldn't comment. I wasn't gonna like it. I didn't want that to pop up, pop up in
Hmm.
my feed, and then like my wife or somebody else, or I'm out in service and someone sees that. So I started looking into things, and then I heard about the ARC, the Australian Royal Commission. I heard about the United Nations connection.
Hmm.
And it sounded, when I first heard about it, these are the apostate lies
They're
that,
not.
right? These are the apostate lies that I was warned about. So I heard
Right.
a little bit, but you hear it and you're like, what? It sounds solid. And at the time, I wasn't in a position. I had a family situation where I needed to stay in the organization.
Mm.
But I think mentally, even though I was fighting it, I was denying it. I thought this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. And I think I was already making plans. And at one point, I told my wife, I said, when grandma passes, because we were taking care of her grandma, living in the same home, I said, I found some things, and I'm not going to look into that. Even though I was looking at other content, I didn't deep dive on things, right? And I said, but when grandma passes, I am going to go back. And if this is true, I just don't think I can stay in the religion.
So by this time you were remarried, had a wife who was in the organization. She was Jehovah's Witness. You have a couple of kids, I guess, when this happens.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah. So remarried, got a couple kids. I got a 10-year-old and 13-year-old right now. And so yeah, so grandma passed, and I immediately picked up that research. I went to, I forget the YouTube channel, but this person has like 23 hours of the Australian Royal Commission. I think it's the all like 8 days or
Of the
something like.
testimony, yeah.
Yep. So I just, I
Binge
drive,
watched it.
I binge watched it. Yeah, I commute to Chandler 3 days a week for work, and it's like 50-minute drive, man. So I'm like, watch it there. And I wanted to see their face. I didn't want to just listen. I wanted to see it. This was like serious stuff. And I watched all of that. And then on the weekends, when I had like a little privacy, I would go and I'd pull up the ARC, like the official transcript, and I would spot check like the stuff Jeffrey Jackson said. I spot checked that. Some of the stuff some of the other brothers said, I spot checked it. But you realize quickly, like, okay, if this is a lie, a scheme, this is elaborate, right? These
Yeah.
people are incredible, and you just realize this is real. This is real stuff.
It's real lives that are being impacted, definitely.
Right, for sure. For sure.
So at one point were you like, I just gotta leave? Like you're married, you have the stakes are high for you, you have two young boys. I mean, that must have been like a hard decision. Or
It
maybe
was
it wasn't. Maybe it was, I don't know.
no, no, you're right. It was a hard decision. And I thought, your mind is just 100 miles an hour. Then maybe at night you slow it down and you think through things. And I thought, okay, maybe, and I'm talking with my wife. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can just not be an elder anymore and keep going. But that didn't feel authentic. I would say it and I would wish that I could do that, but my personality type, I'm like, I can't, I'm kind of all or nothing.
Hmm.
And I realized I can't do that. And then I thought, okay, what if I stay in here and then my kids in like 10 years, they wake up and then I tell them, oh yeah, I already knew all that. I've been awake. I mean, how they would be ticked, man. They'd be irritated, rightly so. At dad, like you should have told me. So I thought I've got to be real with this, and I gotta whatever the consequences. I just decided whatever the consequences, I've got to do it. And so I decided that I would say after I started doing that research, I got to a point where I thought, okay, I'm leaving. What is it going to look like, and how bad is the collateral damage going to be? And I thought, okay, I went through that and I just slowly started planning how I was going to leave. I started planning what I was going to say to my fellow elders. I started planning what I was going to say to my service group and what I was going to say to friends. I didn't want to run in the hall like with my eyes bugged out and screaming. If anything, I wanted to plant some seeds and I wanted to see their reaction because I was over here like my world was just like upside down.
Yeah.
And so I started sharing a little bit with people. And yeah, yeah, I just finally in January is when I got removed as an elder. But I just again I started planning it for a while and I was going to go back and mention this. For a while I started drinking like every night. I was drinking tequila every night because I was just and I didn't know, I was like just drinking. Oh, okay, I feel good. I'm sleeping better. And
Self-medicating, basically.
I was self-medicating and I realized something was wrong. But the moment I decided, I remember just thinking and deciding, what are you going to do, Amiri? And the moment I decided, okay, I'm going to look at all this research and whatever happens, happens. And as soon as I decided that, I stopped drinking, like immediately,
Mm.
immediately. And then in January of this year is when I finally, like the plan I had in place, um, that's when I reached out. I started sharing things on the WhatsApp because we had an elders thread. I started sharing things and immediately, the elders got in touch with me and hey, how you doing? The elders, we
I'm
can
worried
can we
about you,
chat?
brother. Can we talk?
Right. That's exactly what happened.
Mhm.
Yep.
How'd the conversation go?
Uh, well, it went they weren't honest about it. And I don't think they did that maliciously. I just think that's a JW mindset of like double think, like having a thought and a thought, because they said the Kobe, I talked to multiple elders, but ultimately it was the Kobe said, hey, let's get together with the elders. Let's get together as a body. The elders want to hear you out. And so I printed out the UN letter. I had links. I had stuff on my tablet ready to go to show like a short video with Jackson. Um, what else? I had just a little bit. I really condensed it, learning how to make talks, right? You're like, okay, I got like a 5 minute talk here.
Hmm.
And they let me do like an intro, you say a prayer and they let you make like this opening statement. But as soon as I tried to share like the UN letter, the
Shut
Kobe,
it down.
oh yeah, he raised his voice. He wasn't yelling. He just, how you talk over somebody? He just got louder, shut me down, and he said, "We're not here to look at that today. We'll do that another time." He said, "Today we're here to discuss your qualifications as an elder." And right there, I thought, well, that's not what you told me on the phone. I didn't say that out loud, but I'm thinking, okay, you already lied to me. You told me you wanted to hear me out, And I thought naively, I thought, okay, well, I've got a good motive. I really like, I'm not these evil apostates out there just wanting to go out and
Like a roaring lion seeking to devour someone. Ah.
right, right, right. And I thought, I thought I was special. I thought, oh, I'm different. I've got this motive that's pretty good. And it just didn't work like that. So
Mm.
yeah, they talked to me. We talked back and forth. I tried to ask questions, and then they dismiss you for about 15 minutes. They called me back and said, we're going to remove you as an elder.
So was this the best option for you? Do you feel like you could fade out, or was this like kind of the way this had to go for you? Or does it even matter?
I don't know. I thought about the options. I thought, when I first kind of woke up, I was irritated. I was mad. I thought, I'm going to disassociate.
Hmm.
And then I started thinking it through. I started thinking about family, and then I had a family member reach out to me right away and said, "Please don't disassociate," right? Because they wanted to take advantage of that JW loophole, right? To where they could still have a little bit of association with me. And I thought, and I told him, I said, "Well, I'm not doing anything, I'm not doing any knee-jerk reactions." I reassured them. And I thought, okay, maybe I won't be an elder and I won't be at the meetings. And so for a while, I thought that would work. I wouldn't be disfellowshipped or disassociated. They can think that I'm spiritually weak or whatever they want to think, and I'll just do my thing. And it was working. It felt good for a while, even though I knew I wanted to speak up. And I knew, okay, I might want to worship a different way, but that was like a bridge down the road, right? So I just thought, okay, I'll deal with that later. Yeah.
So you're married. What kind of complications did that at the mix? I mean, is your wife a devout Jehovah's Witness still?
Yeah, that definitely has caused some complications. She's still a witness, and yeah, I'm trying to stabilize that, but yeah, she basically has separated from me
Mhm. Sorry
over
to hear that.
this. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, over me leaving, that was I'd say within 2 weeks of me being disfellowship for apostasy, she she left.
Mhm. So what's next for you now?
Oh man, still just trying to, again, trying to stabilize life. I'm trying to keep my family together,
Hmm.
even though my wife has left. I'm trying to keep that together, and I've tried to reassure my wife that I love her, and of course my children. I'm trying to teach them to just do the right thing, and I would still say I have my walk with God. I still believe what the scriptures say, and I do my best to follow Jesus. I personally can't find anything objectionable in him, and when I read the Old Testament, sometimes I don't like what I read. Like, oh, why'd God kill this man? Because for gathering wood on the Sabbath, there's things like that. But
God
but at
seems
the
kind of
same
narcissistic in the Old Testament. He really does to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, and so I feel some of that as well, but then at the same time I think, okay, well what is my better standard that I would
Hmm.
have? So right now where I'm at on my journey, again, I have a walk with God, I would say, and I do my best to follow Jesus. I didn't leave to go back out to the party scene. I didn't leave to
Right.
go do drugs or to go find women. I left because it was a matter of truth, right? I left because I was lied to and I was manipulated. But all the feedback I've gotten is, oh, well, you're just bitter and you're just here's another thing. I hear you're just bitter and also, oh, you're just mad because the governing body is not perfect. You're expecting perfection. It's like, no, that I'm not expecting I didn't expect perfection for 24 plus years. Why all of a sudden would I do that? And then I had family tell me that I was bored. So, and I'm like, okay, I'm bored, so I'm just going to blow up my life. That doesn't
No,
make sense either,
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So what kind of deconstruction have you been able to do? Because I mean, it's still kind of fresh, it sounds like to me, where you recently just like kind of walked away.
Mhm.
Did your whole belief system get put upside down when you kind of walked away?
It did. It did. I mean, when I first woke up, I thought to myself, it didn't last long, maybe days, but I thought to myself, there's no God. Like there is no way there is a creator. And then he put me here, you know. But then that didn't last long because I look at my own body, you look into another man's eyes, I look around and I'm just like, okay, somebody made this.
Hmm.
And then I had to realize my part in it, like I think I alluded to this earlier. It's easy when you're looking for something, it's easy to play up things like, oh, this was a sign. Oh, that was a sign from God. So now where I'm at is I haven't seen Jesus and I like no angels have appeared to me or anything. And I'm not gonna say like, oh yeah, I had this feeling or I had this experience. I'm just going with what I know. And again, I'll listen to different people's perspectives. I've listened to some of your videos and others, and sometimes I hear pieces of truth or what I would say, oh, okay, I agree with that. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
it resonates with you.
Sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it seems like you're really devout. You had awakening experience now, kind of like putting the pieces together. What would you say would be your biggest challenge at this point?
Uh, my biggest challenge, I would say my biggest challenge, again, right now, my family situation,
Hmm.
that is the biggest challenge right now. And I'm in a newer job, so that's kind of hard too, right? You're at a new job and you're learning how this new company works and what they expect of you. And then your life is turned upside down. So I think that's been my biggest challenge. I know I've made a couple friends and I'm okay being a loner as well. So there's different challenges here and there, but I'd say my family situation and figuring things out and just I think this was such a humbling experience. As a witness, we know everything, right? We have an answer to every question. And we can show you from the Bible. And when the Bible's not clear, we'll get that reference from the Watchtower, right?
Or the governing body?
Or the governing body, right?
Hmm.
And so it's been humbling. And now I'm at a place where, yeah, okay, I have what I believe, but I'm not so vocal now. Or even when I speak, not speaking like, oh, hey, this is what I know and this is right, you know.
Hmm. What kind
So,
of conversation have you been able to have with your boys?
they're young, so I try not to give them too much, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do try to share with them. Like, I just try to, like, I've talked to them about getting baptized, and I told them, I've kind of painted a picture for them, like, if they get baptized, this is what it will very likely look like, you know, and without telling them, hey, don't get baptized. I've just tried to paint that picture. And then they see family and they see, if we're at Costco, that's a lot of times I'll see witnesses there and they'll like won't even make eye contact. I mean, people I've
Right.
known for years, they will just look away. I had there was one sister a few weeks ago. I wasn't with my boys, it was just me, but she like turned around and took off. Like she went the other way, man. And that's just mind-boggling. That's just mind-boggling to me. But when my boys are with me and that happens, I point it out to them. And I
Yeah.
ask them, I say, hey, do you think this is normal? No, no. And they assure me, they say, Dad, we would never, especially my little guy. My older one's more quiet and contemplative, but my little guy, he's an analyst. He's always trying to figure stuff out. And he's like, Dad, we would never do that to you. So that makes me feel good.
So we're talking to Amiri McCain, who runs the YouTube channel JW Informed Consent. We're talking about his entrance and his exit out of the JW religion. Let's get into your disfellowshipping. We haven't really talked about that specifically, but tell me about that process. What was it like? What was the feeling around that?
Yeah, so when I was removed as an elder, I was removed in January of this year, and I had faded, I guess you'd call it. I'm not going to meetings, and actually it felt good. I thought, oh, okay, this seems smoother than I thought it would be, but that was a little deceptive. So that went on, and then I met up with multiple elders probably a few times, 3 or 4 times, because now they want to find out, what's wrong with you and try and get you back to the meetings and everything. And that last meeting with two elders would have been around March. And so from March to July, again, that was smooth as well. Because I find the last time we met, I thought I can't do this anymore. It was stressful. I felt nauseous when I left, and I was kind of like vexed. I would just be for at least 2, 3 days, I would just be thinking about things. And then I'm thinking, oh, I should have said it like this. I should have said it
Mm.
like that. And it's just, okay, I can't do it. And but I did want to meet with them because I wanted to be wrong. This is a nightmare, right? Like this has been a nightmare. I didn't want this to be real. Even though in your gut, like, okay, everything just seems solid, despite all the things they tell you, right? Like the apostates equal the boogeyman. I'm like, no, this is all real. So from March to early July, I would say it was as smooth as it could be, still bumpy with the marriage relationship, but trying to smooth that out as well. And then on the night of the meeting, like on a Wednesday night, the judicial committee, they called me. So three elders called me on the phone and they said, Amiri, we've decided we created a judicial committee for you for apostasy. And I asked them, I said, well, what did I do? And they said, well, just come and talk to us and we'll tell you. Okay, well, that wasn't true either. That was
Like the
also a lie.
police, you just come talk to us. Just want to talk to you. Just step out your car.
Oh man, we learn how to become kind of lawyer-like, right? In our speech and especially as elders, man. You slice and dice those words, all these semantics. So I asked them, and then they shared, I think, Romans, where it talks about causing divisions in the congregation. Now, mind you, I hadn't been at the meeting since January, and they're telling me, they're telling me through scripture, well, you're causing divisions in the congregation. And I said, my wife, my family, few friends I've talked to from the congregation, no one has told me or even indicated that I'm causing any divisions. I said, who said this and what did I say? And this is on the phone, right? Literally minutes before the midweek meeting. And they said, well, just come talk to us and we'll tell you. So I didn't even want to do that. But I did it. I did again, Amani. I'm thinking, okay, I still maybe God is prodding me to go, and I'm still missing something. So I go to this judicial committee, and it was basically just a rehash of the previous conversations, right? But the last conversation they had with me, one of the last questions they asked is that question that puts the nail in your coffin, right? They said, do you believe that the governing body, do you still believe that the governing body is the faithful and discreet slave that Jesus appointed, right? It's very, very specific language. And I just answered, I thought about kind of weaseling around that. And I just answered honestly. I said, I don't, brother. I said, I,
Hell
right.
no. Hell no.
Amani would have answered differently, right?
I'm like, fuck no.
So I said, I was a little bit more diplomatic. And I said, you
No,
know
I'm just
what?
saying.
I said, brothers, I don't. I said, I might be missing something, but right now I don't. And I said, brothers, if I'm wrong, I'll come crawling back. I will come crawling through the parking lot of the Kingdom Hall up to the doorstep. Okay.
The only other way I think you could answer that question was just with another question. Could you show me in the Bible where the Bible names Jehovah's Witnesses and the governing body as his appointed slave class? That's the only way you could answer
Mm.
it the way.
Okay. I
Yeah.
know I had someone reach out to me and they said the way they avoided getting disfellowship, and this person's still going to meetings and stuff. They said, and they believe this. See, I wouldn't say this because I didn't really believe it, but they said they told the elders during their judicial committee that they thought, yes, they were the faithful and discreet slave, but that they had become the evil slave.
There you
Okay.
go.
And then, so she got off. So she taught me that technicality. So maybe your
Mhm.
viewers, if that's what they want to do, they can
Yeah.
go that route. So I met up with them. Um, and it was the same sort of thing. and they just it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking how they dealt with me. For one, they sent me a certified letter, right? Like nothing says the love of Jesus Christ like a certified letter in the mail, right?
Right.
With just this official tone of we're meeting at this time, come meet with us, and if you don't, we're going to proceed without you, sort of thing. I know the
Hmm.
ropes because I was serving for a
Yep.
while. And so I meet up with them, and it probably was an hour and a half ish total. And they never again. I had the same questions, man. I kept asking about the ARC, the UN. I asked about Matthew 24:45 through 7. I touched on the blood thing. I might have mentioned the whole pandemic thing, but I didn't focus on the pandemic thing. I tried to focus for them. I tried to focus on the ARC and the UN because to me that was very tangible. The pandemic stuff is kind of controversial.
Right.
So I tried to focus more on the ARC.
Things that you could prove and it has been on the record.
Right, right. Just
Yeah.
low-hanging fruit. Like it's right there. It's a letter, it's not like this, oh, well, I don't like this and I didn't like no, no, I just tried to focus on that because I by the time I started reading the ARC and stuff, again, I had fractured. I was kind of broken.
Hmm.
And so they wouldn't look at that. They refused to look at that. And I said, I said, well, who said this? And I knew they wouldn't tell me because as elders, you never reveal that. You never said, "Oh yeah, Armani said it." Amani. I'm sorry. They never say that. They just kind of looked at me and just, we're not going to tell you that, brother. That's what they
Hmm.
said. And I said, "Okay, well, what did I say?" So here you're turning my life upside down. Like you're putting me in this position where you're going to excommunicate me, but you won't let me face my accuser or my accusers, and you won't tell me one thing of what they said. So won't tell me one name and won't and it's not like I was going to go get that person, right?
Right.
Like, oh, I'm gonna find them. No, no, I'm just like, who, let's talk. They wouldn't tell me one name and they wouldn't tell me one thing of what I said. They never said, they gave me a little bit like, they said, did you talk to a brother in front of a restaurant? That's kind of like what they asked me. And so that's how it went. And it was disappointing. And again, they send you out of the room, brought me back in some amount of time. And they said, hey, we've decided to disfellowship you for apostasy. And that was it. I appealed it. And I appealed it mainly kind of to be annoying. Like I knew that when I appealed it, they would have to reach out to the circuit overseer and they would bring in 3 more elders. And I was kind of hoping, okay, maybe there'll be 4 more elders that will read my letter because I had emailed them multiple times. And maybe it'll plant a seed, or maybe one of them will have some reason. But when it came down to it, like I think I was supposed to meet like on a Sunday like 6 p.m. I just couldn't go through with it, man. I'm like, and they called and I messaged him a little earlier. I said, you know what, I can't, go ahead. I love you, brothers. I'm always here for you, but I'm not going to go through with this. But go ahead and do what you're going to do. And they called me shortly after that, a couple elders, and they said, okay, we're going to announce your disfellowshipping on Wednesday, and that was it. That was like mid-July.
In the JW world, just to let the audience know, like getting accused of apostasy is like the biggest like red flag of all the sins. Like that's like you're like a devil influenced maniac that's going to corrupt all of the Jehovah's Witnesses. How did that feel to be accused of apostasy? Because to me, I'm not an apostate, but obviously they think I would be. But how does it feel to get labeled that?
Man, as scared as I was for decades of ever becoming that, it was almost like an honor because yeah, I mean, because I drew these brothers out. I drew them out because I thought, okay, Christ would not treat me like this.
Hmm.
I've read the scriptures. If whether you believe the scriptures or not, if you read his account, you would probably agree, yeah, he probably wouldn't act like that, this person. So when I drew them out and they just like, certified letter, wouldn't listen to anything like these brothers, I've known these guys for years. I've
Right.
served with them for years, right? A couple of them I've known for over 20 years. They weren't in the judicial committee, but as a body. And so to be called an apostate, I was just like, man, I told him, I said, and again, I tried to constantly be diplomatic. I didn't want to play into the apostate stereotype. And so I just said, I don't agree with this. I said, I don't agree with this. And this is really gonna like bring, turn my family upside down even more. And they just, they just kind of look at you, like, it's kind of like newscasters, they can, sometimes you see these news guys, they'll read like the most horrible news and they just have a straight face, right? Like I
Yeah.
would be crying, like I would be like mouth wide open, like what? But they have to, that's how they were. They just,
Well, they're
when
so
I was,
desensitized. Yeah, the nuisance, they're so desensitized. I worked in the news, so I know all about that.
oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, so that's a good word for it, desensitized. Because I
Hmm.
told them, I said, brothers, I was crying over this. I've cried and sobbed harder than I ever have in my life. And they just kind of went, that's all they did. And when I told them I disagreed and that this was going to mess my family up, they didn't, they didn't do anything. They didn't say anything. They really didn't flinch. And I think one of them, and then you leave, they don't pray with you again because you're an evil demonic apostate. And
Exactly.
I just kind of, I think one might have shook my hand. I don't remember for sure, but then I just kind of left and said, hey, and I constantly tried to leave it on a good note.
Mm. So did you immediately go to start your YouTube channel pretty much right after you left the organization or got removed?
No, excuse me, excuse me. No, this would have been around August 2023.
Okay, gotcha. So it's been a
When,
couple of years then.
yeah, when they removed Brother Morris, that was another fracture. I couldn't figure out like why is this happening? Something's changing, right? And then they bring in some new brothers into the governing body. And when Morris left, that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. That's when I started talking myself into looking at outside information. Like
Hmm.
because I guess I just wanted to know why was he removed? And I think there's some pretty good theories out there, but I never found any. Of course, the organization's not going to say,
Right.
but I never found anything like from a elder or something.
Being that you were an elder, how nerve-wracking was it or how difficult was it for you to actually look at your first video or open the first magazine or do your first research?
Oh, that's a good question because it was very nerve-wracking. It was when I finally decided to click on a video or a link, my heart was pounding, I was sweating, I was breathing heavy, and I mean I was freaking out, and I realized something's wrong. Like even before I saw any information, it's like every step of the way through this journey, I'm realizing something's wrong and it isn't lining up with everything I've been taught. And so when I was sweating and breathing heavy and scared, I mean, I was scared. I was scared like demons were going to come and get me. And I thought, Myri, this is not normal. This is superstitious. Like this is the thing we used to make fun of other religions for, like especially the Catholics, right? The Catholics are like the favorite whipping boy of witnesses, you know. And I thought this is oh, this isn't normal. So I clicked on it, and that was like my first experience. That's how I felt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then next time it wasn't so bad. The next time it wasn't so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. As you go on, you're like, oh, okay, now I'm gonna watch this video and or listen to this and I consumed massive amounts of XJW content. And I'll say I didn't read anything. I wanted to see videos. Like I wanted to see your face, as you're talking, and I wanted to see who you were interviewing because I wanted to know, am I being deceived? Am I gonna see like those like when you read body language, am I going to see
Yeah.
like line in there? And so I like JW Facts. I know that's a great website.
Hmm.
Avoid JW. I really have not. I might have went there at some point, but I really did not consume any content from there. It was all YouTube content,
Hmm.
all of it.
Well, the community is so like passionate about their content. So that's what got me into creating content was just seeing how engaged the community was. And there's obviously people who are affected by being a Jehovah's Witness because it's been so long for me. Like it's been, man, I was like fresh out of college when I first walked away. But seeing how I would imagine that it kind of has helped in the healing journey as well. Like, how is that going for you?
Man, it has been very healing. Like I like your name, like Seeds of Awakening. I mean, that's real. What is that, like a lotus flower opening?
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, that's a really good metaphor for what happened, just so yeah, that's how the journey's been. It's been like therapy, videos. I'll watch videos. A lot of times I'll rewatch videos or pieces, or if I'm missing something, I'll go back. So to me, it's been like therapy, and I've been in therapy, so but YouTube's more of a free therapy.
Talk about that. When did you start therapy and how's that been going for you?
It's been going good. Had therapy today actually, and
Okay.
I went from, and I'm at like where I'm at now. I was raised like, oh, you don't need that, suck it up, be a man.
Hmm.
But I probably could have used therapy decades ago or 10 years ago. But when I finally was in like this panic mode, like I thought, okay, I'm going to this is outside what my abilities. And so I got to a point where I think I had three therapists at one point
Hmm.
briefly, but I'm seeing one now, and it's been real good just to talk, and they'll listen and they'll give you some suggestions, they'll gently give you some suggestions. So that's been really helpful.
Hmm. Well, I like to ask my guests some common questions. So I think we're at a good point to ask those questions now. And so the first one is what would be your definition of a spiritual awakening? How would you explain an awakening? What would be your definition of that?
Oh goodness. I would say like my spiritual awakening was realizing that my mind, my heart, and my feelings were not in alignment. It's almost like I could see it. I remember standing here one day, and it was almost like, this probably sounds crazy. I started thinking of remember when Nebuchadnezzar was turned into like an animal for 7 years or something like
Hmm.
that? And then he finally, I think he looked up one night and his thinking started coming back. That's how I felt, man. I remember standing here thinking like, what is going on? And I just the feeling and what was happening is my feelings were aligning with my thoughts and my heart. And that was the awakening. And that I realized like, okay, this is truth, right? Like whoever made me, because excuse me, especially witnesses, people will kind of downplay feelings and emotions, but it's
Hmm.
like, well, that's part of you. That's like saying, oh, well, you don't need your thumb. You don't need you don't need your pinky. No, everything we have, we're supposed to use
Works together in unison, really, in
in
harmony.
unison. Yeah, and just once I started doing that, man, I felt it was like a huge weight lifted off me, and I just felt so at peace. And I know that I knew there was like turbulence ahead, but I felt so much peace and calm, and I just had to smile. I just knew everything's going to be all right, right?
Hmm. It's a great
Yeah.
answer. I appreciate your positive attitude despite maybe all the curveballs life has thrown at you. You saw such a positive demeanor about things.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I
Hmm.
tried. Oh,
So my next question is, what's the most valuable lesson have you learned in life so far?
I think right now I would say to not think that I have all the answers. Even I have my beliefs now, but as a witness, you kind of you're like, I have the truth, they don't, so there, but now I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is I don't have all the answers. And that should bring in some humility, right? Like, okay, listen to this. Even if I don't agree with this person, just listen. And I think I've become less judgmental. Not that I have to agree with what other people are doing, but I don't have to just pounce, right? Like as a witness, you're like, oh, I got to give them a witness. They need a tract, right? And so those are, to me, those are the biggest lessons. Just, I don't know it all, and I don't you can talk to people and not, you don't have to agree on everything. It's like when you watch a movie, you don't always like maybe a little piece of the message, or you might like a song and some of it you don't agree with. I mean, you have a conversation with your closest family member, you don't always agree, and we don't treat them like that. So why should I treat the rest of the people like that. And opening up like that, man, the relationships I've had like at work and with other people, way more relaxed, way more relaxed, way more pleasant, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like when you get into the world, as they say, the worldly people are even more accepting than a lot of JWs, unfortunately. That's sort of what I've observed in life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I work with the guy and he's quite a bit younger than me, right? He's young enough to be my son. And man, super nice guy. Very, very, hey, how are you? How's your family doing? Okay, you okay, man? Yeah, I like talking anytime you need to talk. I mean, and even now, sometimes I have to step back, like, because I was always taught that worldly people are not like that, but that's not true. That's a
Yeah.
lie. That was a lie.
I feel like people are just people. Like that was my first realization was when I was in DC and a couple of my roommates. I was like, these are just good brothers. Like they're good people in general. And they're not like how witnesses have categorized worldly people. And most people are just good people trying to live their lives. They're very helpful. They're just on, I don't know about honesty, but people are generally good in general. So that's what I found. That's what really helped me. I think that was my first realization. I was like, there's no way Jehovah would destroy these two brothers because they're good people.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, people, I like that thought. People are just people. And in
Mhm.
every group, there's going to be, different personalities and everything. People are just people. But again, JWs have to maintain the leadership has to maintain that boogeyman, that whole them, other, enemy
You create that
mentality.
polarization of them versus us or us versus them or good versus evil. You have to have that dichotomy, I guess.
Absolutely. And that's why now I feel like I'm even more sensitive to things that divide,
Hmm.
politics. I don't get into I still don't get into it a lot. I can follow it and talk about it, but when things start to divide people, I feel like there's some other spirit there. Like what is it that's dividing us? And sadly, religion divides us,
Oh, it
and
does. Yep.
it does. And I fought, it's crazy because I just remember I would always defend the organization. I would defend our religion, like, hey, we don't divide, we don't break up families, we don't do this, we don't, because you think, oh, well, we don't get involved in politics, so we're good. We don't go to war, so we're good. Well, those may be nice things, but there's other problems, right? Shunning. So that's why now, like religion, I don't see myself joining another religion, but
Mm.
especially like a 501(c)(3), like something that's milking the government. No, I don't see that.
Yeah,
But when they divide, that's when anything that's dividing, I don't like it. Whether it's at work, spiritual, whatever, you know.
100%. All right, so my last question is, what would be your message to any JWs like that may be watching this, or have you had any conversations with any JWs, or have you had any sort of interaction with them? I know as an apostate, probably not, but if you were going to have a conversation or talk to them, what would you say?
Yeah, I've had to go back to the first part, it is interesting the people that comment on your. I'm sure you see this too. You've been doing this way longer than me, but you get these comments and you're like, oh, witnesses are here, right? They're defending their faith, sorta, not really. And then I've had them reach out to me on email and, hey, what do I do? And sometimes people want all of this life advice, which I just came out of a cult. Like, well, like what advice can I really give? I'm like the last person.
I've been brainwashed for most of my life. What do you want me to say?
Right, right. It's almost like they come up to you and like you think of you if you had a nice car and it was just smashed and your arms in a cast and your legs in a cast and you just got in an accident and someone's coming up to you for driving advice. It's
Right.
like, you need a different person, at least at the moment, right? So, but as far as advice, I would say that, the truth does not mind being questioned, but a lie doesn't like to be challenged, and I
Hmm.
didn't. Many I've heard other XJWs say that, but I mean that to me that's just a truth. That's like a resounding truth. Is that, and that's what made me dive in. I finally, part of what gave me allowed me to dive into this apostate information when I was scared is I realized, okay, if I have truth, nothing can break that because God, he knows what's going on in my mind and heart right now. He knows I'm not just looking to get out of something. And so, you know, I went with it. And that's what I would say to others is just you shouldn't have to be afraid of information. If you're afraid of information, it almost seems like deep down, like maybe in the subconscious, you already know something's wrong.
Exactly. Yep. Very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. So
It's just you haven't realized it yet, or you're realizing or waking up to the fact of it. Your
yeah, yeah,
consciousness is becoming aware of it.
absolutely. And you know, it's interesting, Jehovah's Witnesses, and I've talked to family about this because I was always baffled. And I would ask, like, hey, why don't they ever write articles on the subconscious? You know, ever. I don't in all my years, I've
You never
what
hear a Jehovah's Witness ever talk about subconscious.
no, no.
Never.
And my theory might be a little conspiratorial, but my theory is that the controllers, the ones running the organization, they start, I think they know if they start talking about that, people will start thinking about it.
Yep.
You know, and they're controlling it, you know, just like when they, you know, the images in the watchtower and all the messages and all the stuff they put in there, they want us to pay attention at a certain level, but they don't really want us to go within.
Or even to look at other scriptures for information. They just hammer on 1 Corinthians 15:33, bad association, spoils evil habits, or whatever the scripture is. They just hammer that in every magazine, every meeting, every article. It's like all the same, basically reiterated over and over again. At least when I was a witness, that's what it was like.
Oh yeah, yeah, constantly. They
Hmm.
just there's probably a hundred scriptures, 50 to 100 scriptures that
Just recycled.
they recycle, especially the ones that just push you back toward the governing body.
Hmm.
They just and then they seem to keep you in the Old Testament a lot. It's weird, but they you read the New Testament, or as they call it, the Hebrew versus the Greek, right? But they seem to keep you in the Old Testament, and they like to tie themselves to like the authority of Moses, right? So, oh, you're going to question, and they even the elders when I was talking to them, they compared me to Korah, you know, the rebel against Moses, and I thought, well, I'm not going for a power grab, man. That's
Hmm.
I don't want like a start another religion or any. That's the last thing I want to do, you
Right.
know. Yeah.
So, Amari, why don't we talk about your YouTube channel? Talk a little bit about what kind of content you've created and what kind of success have you found there? How has that helped you also?
Yeah, I excuse me, before I left, I started thinking of a name and that started to resonate with me. And it's JW informed consent. And to me, that's very important in every area of life. Like you can't give real consent if you're not informed. And as a witness, when I learned all this stuff, I thought, no, that wasn't fair. That wasn't fair. I was not informed. Like I was out there preaching this fiery message about the UN, and at the
Not knowing that they were a
same
government NGO to the UN.
yeah, yeah, like that. I felt like, and I told my elders this, my brothers, I feel like a fool. Like I was doing this. And so to me, the idea of informed consent is very important in every area of life. Just like with the pandemic, there again, I felt like I was not informed enough to give the proper consent, and I didn't like that. So that's kind of that's what has resonated with me. And so I my thought was the YouTube videos I looked for when I started waking up is, you know, I saw people that were angry and fiery and at first that really turned me off, you know, so I just tried to find ex-elders, ex-Bethelites and people who were just more calm, which most of them actually are,
Mhm.
you know, and so that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to share my story. I just wanted to walk through it slowly and even go through like I'm doing a series on the pandemic when I have time. You know, I'm not in a rush to do all this, but I just want to go through my story and just from A to Z, you know, just slowly go through that and maybe I'll be done at that point. And that seems to resonate with a lot of people. They email me and oh, your story's just like mine. And you know, a lot of people left. There was an awakening in many ways, I think, during the pandemic, and people
Yeah.
reached out to me. There's some haters out there, but it's pretty far and few in between.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll continue to create your videos and awaken more people, man. That's the whole point of, I think, us creating this content.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so. Likewise with your channel. I hope you keep making content, waking people up. I wish we could wake more people up that are in the kingdom halls, like my family. I wish I could wake them up.
Well, hopefully at some point they'll realize or get pushed from the inside to go look outside the organization. That's sort of what it takes just to have some sort of questions that aren't getting answered, or
Yeah.
just it all starts with a question, I think, or a realization that something isn't right.
Oh, I hope so. But like I'm hearing, you probably heard the same rumors about, oh, the
Birthdays,
birthdays, right? And I'm just thinking, oh, please, please make the change because for
that's going to wake
one,
a lot of, I think it's going to wake a lot of people up.
that's going to wake a lot of people. If that's even real, that's going to wake a lot of people up, and it's going to, yeah, yeah. That so I'm just like, please, governing body, make every new light change you can because as I was awakening, that's when they allowed the beards. That's when they changed the service time, and again, that had the effect of making me question even more.
Yeah, I didn't ask you that, but what did you make about the beard change, the beard rule? Because the elders used to give me hell when I was a teenager. And then all of a sudden, I looked. One of my homeboys who's a elder. He sent me a picture. He had a beard. I was like, "Y'all can wear beards now?" He's like, "Yup."
Man,
Yeah.
you were able to grow a beard when you were I had like
Well, the
I got
elders give me help, but my dad, he was like, they don't. He understood that it's like a non-scriptural. So my dad was like, he didn't. I mean, my dad didn't make us shave, but I basically did to conform. But I was very resistant.
oh wow. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, so when that came out, again, that just woke me up a little more because it was almost like you snapped out of it. Again, because I'm not fully awake, right?
Right.
It's happening, but
It's a
but when
process. So you kind of slowly come out of the clouds.
you slowly come out of the clouds and so when they said you could have beards, it was almost like I woke up and thought, yeah, there was nothing wrong with that. And then I thought
Right.
back to the brothers we approached and how we dealt with them, and you feel bad. You feel like, why was this ever a rule? And then I had an elder tell me, Amiri, this was never a rule. And
Come on, it's bullshit.
right, right. Again, 1984, double think, right? Like they hold two opposing ideas. And I served the elder that told me this, I served with him for several years. And he looked me and I love this brother. I mean, we were probably one of my closest friends. And he just looked at me, he said, we never had a rule about beards. And it's like, well, where were the beards then? Why did you didn't have even one beard in the hall? The one or two beards you had in the hall were spiritually weak people.
Non-believers or people studying or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, but if they were brothers, there's times when there were brothers and they were just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. They were weak, right? They were spiritually weak. You go shepherd them, send two elders in to talk to them. No ministerial servants, two elders, right? You're gonna straighten this brother out without telling him to shave. You're gonna try and get him to shave his beard. So, and
Mhm.
then so for my friend to tell me that again, it's heartbreaking. The shoulders drop and you're just like, you realize, wow, I can't talk to anybody. You can't
Mhm.
unless they're ready to wake up.
Well, hopefully more people will. Amari, I want to thank you so much for spending some time. This is Amari McCain with JW Informed Consent. Good luck to all your ventures. Hopefully you and your wife are able to work out your situation with your children, especially. But
Thank
good
you.
luck on all your future endeavors.
All right. Thank you, Amani.